You now have a worldwide banking system that's telling their customers, hey, you have to pay me to hold your money. And they are looking and will be looking for an alternative. And that alternative is non-liability money, gold and silver.
Hey guys, before we begin this interview, a shout out to this video's sponsor, Noble Bitcoin. It's time to think outside the box for ways to protect and grow your hard-earned money. Headlines like these are just the tip of the iceberg because the whole world is now on the Titanic. Horror in Ghana as a third of banks shutter, sparking unprecedented bank run. You think it can't happen here? Then why do so many experts believe that a U.S. economic crisis is imminent? Protect your life savings with a Bitcoin IRA from Noble Bitcoin. What you might not know is that you can now put Bitcoin into an IRA or 401k rollover, which means you'll get all the advantages that go along with it, including tax breaks. And although cryptocurrencies are not for everyone, it may be worth dipping your foot in the pool because the growth potential is astronomical. Bitcoin is gaining traction with established financial institutions like banks, investment companies, and even governments around the world. So maybe it's time to examine the opportunity in Bitcoin. No agenda, no funny business, just a grown-up adult discussion with Noble Bitcoin about your options. So give them a call, 877-646-5347, or click the link below this video to get more information. Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here with the most important economic and precious metals update. We're going to talk about the 2020 elections and, in my view, the recession that the establishment wants to see happen to hurt President Donald J. Trump. I have on the line right now our good longtime friend, Bill Holter from JS Mindset. Bill, welcome back. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Sean.
Hey, it's great to have you. We're going to talk about so many different things today. First, I just wanted to show this chart. This is a predictions chart that our friend Mike Maloney sent out from goldsilver.com, and it predicts the price of gold with many of the top analysts predicting 2,300 in short order. Citigroup is saying 2,000 within 2 years. TD Securities saying the same thing. Meanwhile, we have Kyle Bass summarizing the state of the world. He says, this is insane. The Japanese are going to keep going. The Chinese print money like it's a national pastime. Europe is going to restart QE. We're the only country that has an integer in front of our bond yields. That means a non-fractional number. Bill, the world is out of control. Gold is telling us the story. What's your view?
Well, Kyle Bass is right. I mean, the world, it is insane. You've got, 15 or $16 trillion worth of bonds globally that are trading with a negative yield. And it's not just sovereign debt. There's actually some junk bonds out there that are trading with negative yield. I mean, where's the risk return equation in that?
So what is the common man to do, right? We see even the mining shares reacting now. I know that AG, for instance, First Majestic, I believe, is up 100% in just recent months, going from 5 to 10.
Right. And it makes sense. I mean, think about it. If you've got money in a bank and every month or every quarter your bank contacts you and says, you owe us X amount of dollars to keep your money in the bank, what's going to happen? People are going to withdraw their money and look for another place. And that another place is gold and silver. Those are monies without liability. In other words, they're not issued or backed by any country or any government. So from a safety standpoint, they can't default. Whereas, you can see sovereigns default. You can see government bonds default. And it used to be that people would say, oh, well, gold and silver don't pay any dividend or interest. And now where are we today? We're in a place where you buy bonds, put money in a bank, you've got a negative interest rate. It's insanity.
Do you agree with my assessment, Bill, that the powers that be would love to see a recession prior to the 2020 election to hurt President Donald Trump?
Well, yeah, obviously a recession prior to the election would make it more difficult for him to be reelected, and that's exactly what the deep state wants. They want him out in any fashion, whether it be rigging an election, blowing up the economy, blowing up markets, what have you. I mean, they want him out because he's not part of the deep state.
I want to share this tweet from Brian Cates at Draw and Strike with you. It's actually a thread of 3 tweets. I'll read this real quickly. It cannot be stressed enough how vital it is that Trump has started flipping the courts, especially the Ninth Circuit. I'll skip down. He says, I see Trump holding massive rallies that break attendance records. I see declassification happening one drip at a time as more and more judges get confirmed and flip the courts. You're about to see a re-election campaign like nothing else that has ever happened before. Democrats' use of lawfare stymied Trump on a lot of things the last 2 years, but the tide is turning. Trump's patience is going to pay off. By this time next year, August of 2020, we're going to have seen some astonishing things. Having to wait will have been well worth it. So it just draws to mind the fact that it's coming out now because of the testimony of that of the computer scientist Epstein. Ironically, he's got the same last name as the pedophile Jeff Epstein. But Epstein was saying that thanks to Google's rigging, Hillary added somewhere between 2 to 10 million votes that didn't belong to her. So that's the fear, is that despite everything Brian Cates just said, if Google's not brought to heel, guess what they're going to do in 2020, Bill?
Oh, the same thing, double down, and probably much worse than what they did in 2016. I think you could have 2 things happening at the same time. You could see going into the election that the Federal Reserve or the powers that be have caused a recession. They'll get their way on that. But I agree. I think there's going to be an awful lot of truth come out between now and then, that even with a sick economy and crashing markets, I don't think unseating Donald Trump is going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I tweeted just the other day, 6th grade math tells the story of the last election, right? Look at the size of his rallies and look at the size of hers. How are we to believe that she got more of the popular vote than he did? It's just absurd. But you know what? The whole system is rigged against liberty and sovereignty and the people and conservatives, the entire system. Look, Representative Matt Gaetz, who I very much like, tweeted out just the other day, if Google search benefits one political party or promotes one set of beliefs over another, Google is no longer a distributor of news. They are a publisher, and their immunity under Section 230 must be revoked. Once upon a time, Google's motto was, don't be evil. What changed? To which I responded, same exact thing with Google-owned YouTube, Representative Gaetz, the 2nd largest website and search engine in the world. Did you realize that, Bill? YouTube is the 2nd biggest website on earth, and therefore it's the 2nd most used search engine as well. And they're doing the same thing Google is.
I did not know that. It doesn't surprise me. But looking at this thing from a broad perspective, this is it's a coup. It's a coup attempt. And I mean, it has been since before the 2016 election.
Yeah, well, we
and
know
it's
that.
Very, very widespread, Sean.
Right. And we know that, and our listeners know that, and those that read conservative alternative news media know that, but those that are stuck watching CNN or MSNBC have no idea. They think that Trump really did collude with the Russians. That's the craziest part, is really the mental illness which has seized the left. I mean, you have correspondents and reporters and mockingbirds on CNN literally defending the actions of Antifa in the streets of Portland. I mean, we've jumped the shark here in this country, man. I mean, if people...
It's not just this country, Sean. It's worldwide. It is worldwide. This is a worldwide coup of evil trying to step in and prevent good or truth or whatever from governing.
Yeah. And they're Soros talking points. That's really what I'm getting at. Because if you're intellectually honest and you're informed at all, you have to realize that this is an anti-human agenda. Because look, we're nationalists only in that we love our country and don't want it overrun by those who don't love our country. We don't have a country without borders. That doesn't make us bigots, Bill. But what they've done is they've taken the word nationalism,
Right.
and they've put this color in front of it, and the color's white, and now we're all white nationalists, according to the George Soros talking points in the mainstream media, which makes us bigots. When I am more than happy to point out that there's plenty of Hispanic and Black nationalists, people who live in this country and love their country, Bill. So their talking points are just as weak as can be.
Well, Sean, getting back to negative interest rates, negative interest rates are a sign that the currency is worthless. And I believe what is coming is a currency meltdown worldwide, a hyperinflation worldwide, as part of this coup of evil versus good. In a currency meltdown, nothing's going to work. You know, we talked about, you and I and others have talked about when credit freezes up, distribution won't happen. And distribution meaning goods making it to the store shelves. A currency event, a currency meltdown, is hand in hand with a credit meltdown or a credit event. And I think that is part of the plan, is that they are going to pull the plug on currencies, and you will see a hyperinflation.
Where do you think we'll see it first? In which currency?
It's hard to say. At this point, it's easier to say the last one will probably be the dollar, because what's happening now is you've seen the synthetic short that Richard Russell always talked about as probably the biggest reason why the dollar has been strong. Now, you mentioned Kyle Bass's article a couple days ago. The U.S. is really the only place that has interest rates, or a 1% or 2% potential to gain some yield. So capital is moving into the U.S. from all over the world and creating a stronger and stronger dollar. That hurts the emerging economies, if you will. And this capital is being flooded into dollars to gain yield. The final pulled plug will be on the dollar. So I really can't tell you where. You're asking, where will it start? It's already started. You are already seeing it. You've seen currencies blowing up left and right. I mean, look at the Argentine peso, Venezuela. I mean, look at the European Union. I mean, it's hilarious. You have countries like Spain with negative rates. I mean, that's ridiculous. What was it? We probably interviewed 3 or 4 years ago, and we were talking about Spain with 7% rates, and now they're negative.
Right.
And there was fear of sovereign defaults, and the problem within Europe is Spain can't, Ireland can't, Portugal can't. None of the individual countries can actually create euros. So the problem is they get into too much debt. They can't individually as a country print their way out.
Right.
But that's what's happening all over the world. Is in order to make the debt service payable, they've continually had to jam interest rates lower, and we are right now we're at the doorstep of QE, literally to infinity. Once you get to a negative rate across the board, how can you ever make rates go positive? It's like a black hole that will not ever allow interest rates to normalize.
Right, because the debt is unserviceable the minute you raise those rates to any sort of normal
Exactly.
level.
And think about this, Sean. If you go back, I guess it was 9 months ago, maybe a year ago, We were talking about the Federal Reserve with actually a negative net worth because interest rates had risen and their bond portfolio had dropped in value, and they actually went into a negative net worth from roughly, I think they had 60 or $65 billion of equity holding up $4.5 trillion. And then as interest rates went up, their equity evaporated. So they had nothing holding up $4.5 trillion. So why did they stop raising rates? That's got to be one of the reasons, because they were torpedoing themselves.
We know what's crazy about all of it is it wasn't that very long ago that the thought of negative interest rates was completely preposterous. And if you'd have brought up that idea in the late 90s, people would have thought you were out of your mind. And now here we sit with, get this, you probably saw this the other day, Denmark is now offering negative interest rates on mortgages.
Yes.
This is from Sovereign Man. I also saw an additional blurb about this over at Zero Hedge, but according to this report, they offered to lend money at minus 0.12% on a 10-year mortgage. In other words, the bank would pay him to take out a loan. The author here is Alex Monaton. Alex goes on to say, this is completely mind-boggling to me, but it just highlights how broken the financial system really is. And that is just the underscore, ... underscore to what you just said. I mean, it's complete out of control madness. And the math on a negative interest rate mortgage makes 0 sense.
Right.
I mean, it literally makes 0 sense. The bank isn't making any money. The investors in the bank aren't making any money. I mean, is this where we're headed? The value of money will have such little worth that they'll pay you to borrow it?
Right. That's the point I tried to make, is that negative interest rates is, it displays that the money is worthless. Think about this. You lock in a negative rate for 10 years or 15 or 20, whatever the term might be, in a specific, look at the price of gold, is showing that currencies all over the world are being devalued. I mean, you've got the dollar has devalued in the last 2 or 3 months by 25% versus gold. And in other major currencies, I think it's the last I saw, it was 73 major currencies. Gold is now at an all-time high, has already taken out the 2011 highs. So what you're doing when you lock in into a negative rate bond, you know you're going to get back less of that currency than you started with. And when you get paid back, that currency is going to be devalued. So it's suicidal investing.
You know, I saw a tweet the other day. It may have been from the lovely Lisa Mae Crowley. Let me see. I've got her Twitter feed up. Yep, here it is. She shared this, replying to Donald Trump. This says it all. Kudos to the Anon who created this. And the meme is, yes, gold shall destroy the Fed. Your thoughts on that? Is there any way we can take this thing back?
No, there's no way to turn around. The central banks are going to they are destroying themselves. This goes back to 1913, the creature from Jekyll Island. And Sean, one other thing, if you're looking at negative interest rates, what about pension plans? Pension plans are based on an assumption of a positive return. How's that going to work out? It can't mathematically work out. So basically, negative interest rates torpedoes all of these promises that governments, states, corporations have made as far as their pension assumptions.
I know. Well, we've been talking a long, long time about buying physical gold and physical silver and holding them as a hedge against a calamity, and it began to become a trite story in a world where the stock market only went up and mining shares and gold and silver only went down. Right. And now here we sit with just a little bounce in silver, coming from 14 to 17, and the mining shares, of course, have done quite a bit better than that. But it's not a trite story anymore. Bill, because this flood of money is
Right.
eventually going to lead to hyperinflation. And you mentioned Venezuela earlier. It wasn't that long ago that Venezuela was the jewel of that part of the world. And
Yes.
now it is a cesspool of poverty and death because of the debt and the hyperinflation. And people think that can never happen here, and it will never happen here. And my fear is that one day it will.
Well, I guess it was maybe a year ago. Uh, Jim and I did an interview together, and it was titled "The World Is Venezuela."
Yeah.
And we stick by that. What you're saying, gold and silver were a trite story. At this point, now with negative interest rates, it absolutely brings what I've talked about for, I don't know, 5 years now. This is going to end, it will mathematically end in a failure to deliver.
As we're
And
having
then
this,
see how things work out. Once a failure to deliver happens, then see what the world looks like.
yeah, but we've been saying that for years, and they paper over it. The failure to delivers are covered in cash deliveries at maybe a 20, 30, 40% premium. Even if it's a 10% premium, they can get the person who's supposed to get the gold to just shut up, take your profit, and go away.
Yeah, that has worked in the past, but you now have a worldwide banking system that's telling their customers, hey, you have to pay me to hold your money. And they are looking and will be looking for an alternative. And that alternative is non-liability money, gold and silver.
Do you still feel that way about Do you still feel that way about silver? And the reason I ask that question, I know it sounds a little preposterous because I feel that way about silver, of course. It's been money for thousands of years, as has been gold. Only recently has this new paradigm begun to suggest that silver is no longer money. And I get it. I also think, by the way, that the cryptos were created in part as a release valve for a place for money to go. Now, I've said for a long time, ever since Bitcoin was retraced to about 600, 600, I said you may want to consider dipping a foot in the pool in case this thing goes to 100,000 like Max Kaiser has predicted for so long. Having said that, I feel for my buddy Chris Dwayne, who has been the world's biggest silver bull for going on 2 decades here, and we're still mired at 17, despite all the printing in incredible malfeasance and insanity, as described by Kyle Bass, that we're seeing around the world. And silver is still only at 17. I mean, that's preposterous. $17 an ounce for something that is so damn rare that used to be money. I don't know, man. I just make your case for silver because so many people think it's never going to be money again.
Well, first off, there's far more above ground gold than there is silver. Silver comes out of the ground, roughly 10 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold that comes out of the ground. But over the years, gold has been hoarded and silver has been used up because of its uses for technology, medicine, etc. I mean, there's silver in your computer, in your car, solar panels, medicinal purposes. Silver gets used. So there's no big above ground physical stashes that can be used to satisfy delivery. And if you dig into the COMEX, there's a huge amount of call options on silver at $17.50, $20, $25, $30. They're in the month of September, they're in the month of December, they're out to July of next year. And that positioning has not shrunk. It just continues to grow. And that tells me, now, yes, those are paper options, but it does give the holders the right to demand actual physical delivery. And I think that's where the failure to deliver is going to happen. It's going to happen in the silver market. That'll ignite the gold market. And there's pretty much the end of your central banks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would just like to suggest to people that if you imagine yourself in a situation like Venezuelans are in now, imagine yourself with a wheelbarrow full of worthless paper and you want to exchange that for goods, services, food, but the grocery stores are empty, Bill. And all you've got is this worthless paper and empty cupboards. And you're one of those people that never bought physical precious metals. You have no physical gold. You have no physical silver. So put yourself in that situation. Have empathy for those folks. Imagine yourself in that situation, but you do have physical gold and physical silver, right? My point
Right.
is
It's
that
money.
go out in your backyard and try to find some gold or silver. All you're going to find is acorns and leaves and grass, folks. I mean, it's much, much harder to get this stuff than the mainstream media would ever lead you to believe, which is why they wanted you to think it was worthless and only going to go down forever on purpose. That's their whole game, because they want your confidence. It's a con game. They want you to have full confidence in the paper money in your wallet as your wealth. It's
And
not.
Sean,
It's an illusion. It's debt.
Sean, when the time comes that you need gold and silver, you won't be able to buy source gold or silver in any fashion.
Yeah. Can we round out the conversation with just a couple of questions for you about the deep state? I want your thoughts on this. Number one, I should share this, again, from Lisa Mae Crowley. I happened to be on her feed, and I didn't know this. This is unreal, as she says. Did you know that Barack and Michelle Obama are buying a mega mansion in Martha's Vineyard right on the ocean? This thing looks like it's owned by the Queen of England. It probably is, in fact, for them to have the money to get this thing. And it just goes to show that those that play ball and serve the deep state and the intelligence agencies and the Soros globalists and the Queen of England to move us towards this new world order and to gut our country are rewarded with riches beyond their wildest dreams. Now, I believe they sold their soul for these riches, but I'll post a picture of this right now. Look at this mega mansion in Martha's Vineyard, some of the most sought after property in the country. Barack and Michelle Obama will be buying this. Are you astounded?
It's a long stretch from Harry Truman, huh?
Yeah, I mean, well, plus they have that beautiful, I think it's a mansion in Washington, D.C. worth, I think, $7 million that became their deep state headquarters after he left the White House. So these people have sold their souls and sold out their country. Does it astound you that there's people wired like that the Hillary Clintons of the world exist, that the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world existed? Or maybe he still does exist. I want your thoughts on that as well. But doesn't it just astound you that these people sold out our country, and standing diametrically opposed to those types of beliefs and actions is this president, and all the mainstream media does is try to tear him down 24 hours a day?
Well, it's pure evil. I mean, that's really the only comment I can make is it's pure evil. And to expect pure evil to not sell their soul would be, that's foolish.
Yeah. Well, final word then from you on Jeff Epstein. What do you think happened there? Do you buy the official story? He just magically was able to hang himself. And by the way, I'm not even sure that cell had bunk beds. In fact, the images I've seen of El Chapo's living arrangements in the same facility, there are no bunk beds. So your thoughts, what happened to Epstein?
Immediately after he was arrested, we believed that, he was not long for this world. Do I believe he committed suicide? I think that's an impossibility. He was either murdered or he's still alive. Where they shuffled him off to, who knows? But the suicide story, I think that's an impossibility.
Yeah, I do too. And unfortunately, I don't know that we're ever going to get the truth, but we'll keep our eyes on that story, because this was much bigger than just one man, right? This was an international child sex trafficking operation for bribery and blackmail. And I think it was intelligence run.
Sean, think back. This is the pedophilia is worldwide. And I mean, think back to, what was it? Godfather 2 or Godfather 3, where the Vatican was wrapped up in money laundering. It's a lot of movies in the past were prophetic and touched on what's actually been happening and has happened.
Well, the bottom line, Bill, is that the 2020 elections are going to be, we say this every 4 years, but they're always the most important elections of our lifetimes, because really there is a battle right now going on. It's very clear. It's a battle between good and evil, and it's a battle between globalism and sovereignty. So that's what's going on here, folks. You can either get on board and become a nationalist. You can become somebody who cares about your country and loves your country, or you can become a globalist and be ushered into their new world order, one world government. That's it. That's what this is all about.
And Sean, think about it. Think about who and what globalism represents. I mean, if you look at the pedophilia all around the world, it's globalist in nature. I mean, you have good versus bad, and you have the globalists versus nationalists. And if you listen to what is being said by globalists versus what's being said by nationalists, you have good guys and bad guys. And it's not too hard to figure out who the good guys are versus the bad guys.
Yeah, well, that's right. Just listen to who Jake Tapper maligns every night.
Yeah, nationalists are being, painted as whatever, pick the word, fascist, racist, you name it. I mean, disagree with a globalist and that's what you are. You're immediately, you're a racist.
Yeah, and their talking points are very, very thin. I'm amused to see those Democratic debates, the presidential debates. I mean, they have nothing left to sell the American people other than open borders, abortion on demand. I mean, and that's what a woman's right to choose, right? So a woman's right to choose to abort her baby and open borders and what else? I guess giving illegals free tuition and the right to vote.
Yeah, Sean, you're right on that. I mean, they offer the average normal person zero, and their arguments have absolutely zero logic. I mean, I think you could have markets imploding, the economy imploded, and nationalism will still win because the average person understands or can figure out still to this day. I don't know how much longer because of what can happen, but today the average person can still figure out what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
Even with Google, Facebook, et cetera, drilling into people's heads day after day falsehoods.
Well, that's 100% right. People are waking up in droves. And I just responded to Lisa Mae Crowley's tweet there of Brock and Michelle, or should I say Barry and Michael's new mega mansion, saying, here's my response. And I think it's really true. I mean, this, at the end of the day, it's spiritual warfare. Here's what I wrote. Selling out your nation and your soul to the new world order is profitable, but only in this world. So that's what I don't get. Like, Hillary Clinton's not getting any younger, right? But I think she still practices witchcraft. I mean, I guess either these people don't believe in an afterworld, or they truly believe that the Dark Prince is going to give them powers, all the powers of the afterworld, right? And they're going to go dance with the devil. I mean, that's what I can't figure out, Bill, at the end of the day, is how these people sleep at night when they've done nothing but hurt their nation and people. And in the case of Hillary and Bill Clinton, kids with the child trafficking, Laura Silsby at the border of Haiti, they came to her rescue. I mean, the Clinton Foundation, all they've done is hurt people their whole lives. Look at the Clinton body count. It was trending on Twitter. It was trending on Google. Then they killed that. Twitter tried to get Trump body count trending. So
it's faulty wiring.
Yeah. Well,
they're just wired differently.
Like psychopaths.
Yeah.
Bill, tell people how they can find you over there at JS Mindset.
You can go to www.jsmindset.com.
Well, that's simple enough. We always enjoy talking with you, Bill. I appreciate your time today. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks for having me back, Sean.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And guys, thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate our patrons who are keeping us in the game as YouTube. I know you get bored of me saying this, guys, but the revenues of this channel are down 85% year over year. And it's because YouTube changed their algorithms on January 22nd. So my thanks to everybody who's finding these videos, liking them, and sharing them. I very much appreciate it. Also, for those who haven't done so, download the Brave browser. It's more than twice as fast as Google Chrome, and it will not spy on you. It's absolutely free. I'll leave the link below this video. Download it, install it, and begin using the Brave browser. You'll be glad you did. And for real news 24/7, you guys can visit us at sgtreport.com, the antidote to corporate propaganda. God bless. Bye-bye. This is the first ever SGT Report Silver Round. This 999 fine silver round is being produced by Buy the Sunshine Mint. That's the very same mint that strikes American silver eagles. I'll leave a link below this video.